Wow, hello everyone. Welcome today. We have Ghadir with us. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to talk to the both of you today.
Excellent. So, Ghadir, basically today we're going to kind of dive into your story a bit and who you are. But before we kind of deep dive into that, just tell our listeners briefly like who you are, where you come from, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Hello again, everyone. This is Ghadir. I am based in the UAE. I'm originally Palestinian, but I was born and raised all of my life here in the UAE. I am a professional HR, so I work as a coach as well. So this is something that I'm extremely passionate about and had the pleasure to actually meet Charlotte and as well. Sorry, I know your name, I swear.
We got
Jonathan.
and there's nothing
Just
like
okay.
that.
We'll do that again.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, so it's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I had the pleasure to as well get to know Charlotte and Jonathan for the past couple of months as well, and get to kind of embark on my journey, my personal journey as well. So yeah, that's how I got here.
It's been our pleasure. I can tell you that for sure. And I'm sure our listeners will get to know why as our conversation continues to unfold. So, do you want to give our listeners a little bit of a background? Because obviously, as you mentioned there, our paths have crossed and we've worked together through coaching. But, before we met, what's life like? Let's give a bit more of a background on you and challenges you might have faced. Just give us a bit of a backstory, really.
Yeah, so I mean, this question is always not easy to answer because then it's kind of like, oh, you need to talk about yourself. But for me, I've started working from a very, very young age, which is it's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of interact with people from a young age and actually get the opportunity to develop. But for me, it also created a challenge where I was a full-time student and I was as well a full-time employee. And at some point, it was getting way too much. So by the time I had finished my bachelor, I was extremely depressed. I had a lot of like, suicidal thoughts, and I thought that it's time for me to kind of take a break and actually start looking after my mental health. So I seeked professional help at that age, and luckily I got to work with an amazing therapist who helped me get mentally healthy. But then I fell back to that same cycle of, oh, that's great, I'm mentally healthy now, so let's do it again. I'm gonna go study and start my master's and be busy, have a full-time job, and as well a full-time student. And then again, I fell back to the same cycle. This time it was my physical health that kind of deteriorated. Um, and it's just been feeling like I've been stuck in this cycle. And then finally, I felt like I'm settled. Now I got things under control. But then I lost a sense of joy in life. And that's kind of what I was like, I really need help. I know what I want. I just need someone to kind of help me get there. And yeah, I saw on Instagram some of the posts that you guys are posting, and I thought it really resonated quite a lot with me, especially with the wellness aspect of it. So I thought this is exactly what I wanted. It's a sign somehow. And when like you followed me, I'm like, okay, this seems really something like I need right now. And I've been looking for someone to actually help me get through that. And I had this initial conversation with Charlotte, and it went really great. I immediately was like, "Yep, this is what I want. This is what I need. Let's start." Yeah, that's kind of the summary of it all.
You were very clear, like straight away off the bat. You knew what you wanted. You knew whether it was the right thing or not for you, straight away. And that's really powerful, because sometimes a lot of people, and maybe some people listening to this, aren't as clear on that, and they're not really sure if their problem even has a solution. Very often, especially when we're struggling with our wellness, and as you know, we're always talking about mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health and well-being. Sometimes it feels quite a lonely place, and we feel like we're the only people that are experiencing something, and that there can't possibly be a solution because it feels so terrible sometimes. What would you say to anybody that's listening and maybe does feel a little bit unclear on their situation? And that is very vague, because you obviously don't know their specific
Yeah.
situation.
I mean, it did sound like I really knew what I wanted, but in terms of specifics, I really didn't. I think that's also where we, as humans, we really have expectations, and they're very, very clear, and we need everything in measurements. And I'm like, I'm here, I want to get, I don't know, I want to get on grade 10. And we really need to let go of that and focus more on, okay, I need help. Maybe I don't know where to go. Maybe I need someone to help me to actually tell me where, or not tell me, but someone to help me to figure out where I need to go, or remove that ambiguity. So just kind of let go of that fear of, I don't know if what I want in terms of an outcome, and just have a conversation and see where it goes. Because sometimes it's just about starting, and then you see whether it's the right thing for you or not. And that applies to everything in life, not just coaching, I guess. Well,
absolutely, definitely. So talking of which, what was the outcomes that you were looking for? You said that you feel like you felt a little bit of that joy in life, in all areas of life, but what was it you really wanted to achieve and get out of your experience?
Um, it was, so the sense of joy kind of I felt slightly disconnected. I had a great job. I was making good money. I had a great relationship with my family. Everything was going really well, but everything felt it was going really well separately, and I needed that sense of alignment. I needed to feel like all of my life is going together in the same direction, not that I'm living different lives in different roles and different personalities and all of that. It was just a sense of bringing everything together, and because of that, feeling that really, oh, I can actually enjoy my work now because I feel fulfilled. I enjoy my relationship with my family. I can I feel a sense of connection, which brings me joy as well. And that was kind of what I was looking for, and I would say kind of on my way of getting there, or kind of got a glimpse of that. Yeah.
Definitely. It's interesting, obviously, like you said there again, like about thinking about things separately. And even in your story as well, you said about you went to see like a therapist to help you get mentally healthy, but then you kind of went down those same that same cycle again. Then your physical health deteriorated. So I think a lot of people go through that same kind of journey where they're focused so much on one area that they forget that everything is connected.
Exactly.
And focus, okay, oh, my mental health needs, I need to really work on my mental health, and 100% of focus goes there. And then obviously the physical side, emotional side gets neglected a bit. And then obviously what happens, like what happened like with yourself, you feel that sense of separation where, okay, I've got one thing sorted, and then later on down the line something else happens. It's okay,
Exactly.
now I need help again. But you realize that obviously alignment is key to that, which is obviously like important, because everything does work together and everything connects. So you can't have 100% focus on one side and then forget everything else, because it'll come back to bite you again, and you'll come
Exactly. Yeah.
back to those same problems again. So for yourself, like when did you start really noticing the changes then when you started coaching? Like when did you start to feel that alignment kick in really?
So during the coaching experience itself, as I was having these regular conversations with you both, I think when you're in it, you don't actually see it. It's really after. So once you kind of have some time to kind of connect all of these reflections and all of this personal insights you get. So I would say like a couple of weeks maybe after. During, of course, there are these small changes here and there. And at some point you don't know where to connect it. Okay, is this something that I have done, or is this out of the coaching? And I just knew that I had to trust the process, and it's just gonna get there by itself. I did have a lot of people saying that I am different, in a good way, which is kind of really nice to hear. So it's not really kind of a time that I would say this is where I switched, and different as in not that I'm a different person. It's actually the other way around. It's more that I'm accepting of myself, and I'm more authentic, and I feel I can show up as myself without having to mask emotions or be a different person. So I think that's kind of for me, what I'm doing, I'm like, aha, okay, so this is it. This is the moment. Yeah.
I like that description, because often people are looking for a bit of a magic fix, right? A quick fix, or the magic pill that's just going to suddenly wake up tomorrow and everything's going to be different. And the reality is, life doesn't work like that, right? It takes a lot of those small realizations, that deep sense of reflection from different angles of your life or a life situation, to then be able to move forward from it. And I just think sometimes it can be so almost thrown in our faces when you look on things like social media and elsewhere, is for that instant gratification. So I'm really kind of glad to hear that description of your experience, because it's your consistency of sticking with the process and sticking with this goal that you wanted to attain, essentially, but also then just working through and navigating it in the way that made sense for you. What was your kind of standout moments of the process itself? Like, do you want to explain, like, in your own words, what did that process even look like for you?
I mean, for someone who's structured like me, that was the easiest thing because I did have a bit of experience before with coaching, and it was a bit more, it was more of a fluid kind of conversation. What I really appreciated, for me, it's easier to stick to a plan, or actually it resonates a lot better for me. So I know this is where I need to do now, or this is the part of the process where this is where we work on the subconscious, or this is where we work on our needs, or better understand what's masculine energy and feminine energy, or work on my physical health, like work on my sleep and my water intake and all of that. And that's what I really appreciated, because I knew that, for example, I can work on this, and then I know that this is kind of the foundation of what's going to happen, or the next stage, and then just keep going. Because that for me is something that I thought it was really valuable. Something that I personally thought, I was thinking about it actually, one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this coaching is really the amount of insights that I got, not just personally. I love learning. And in every call, whether it's with Jonathan or Charlotte, there was always a new book that we can read. There was always a new theory that I've never heard of. And there was always this exciting new, whether it's psychology or philosophy or whatever it is, new kind of interest that I'm like, okay, this is something that I really want to know. And that's for me kind of was like something extra on top of what I was already getting in terms of personal insights.
I love that. I feel like we're similar in many ways when it comes to that, because it's like going down this little rabbit hole and it's like, oh, that sounds really exciting, and you go off in that direction.
Yeah.
It's listening to those signals and listening to, oh, this sounds exciting, this fits, this resonates, or maybe this doesn't, but that then leads you on to the next thing and the next thing, and that's how we continue to grow, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing. Every time I was looking forward for the session every week, and then every time it had to end after an hour and a half, I'm like, oh my God, this is not enough. I think I need a bit more time. And then I was like really sad because it was jammed in between meetings, and I'm like, I need time to actually like write down all of these books and find time to go buy them, and then I need to schedule time to read them. And it was just a lot of excitement after all of these sessions, which I really, really like. Yeah.
Did at any point though, those feelings, did they feel overwhelming at times? Was there it kind of, because like you said, that's kind of extra stuff that we kind of started to go into, but it wasn't necessarily essential that you did that in order to be able to get a result?
Not at all, because it wasn't overwhelming, because there are additional tasks that I had to do in terms of my homework. It was out of conversations that there are new ways of doing things, or the new ways of thinking, and to me that's a personal interest. So I think, like you said, it's that rabbit hole. Once you see something exciting, like I want more, and I think that's a bit more personal. It changes from one person to the other. Other people could just dismiss it, right? They could focus on getting that personal insight and focusing on the homework and getting that done, which is the work they have to put in to see results. But for me, it was like just more than that. It felt like every single time I'm not just growing as a person, but I'm also like learning a lot more. And then I would go and share it with other people, and then they would go share it with other people, and it kind of created this cycle, which was really cool to even see even other people repeating after the things that I heard from you, and then they're saying it again, and it was really nice.
Love that.
That is good. And it's just like, it's great, kind of that mentality you went into, obviously, of taking that information in and thinking, oh, well, I want to go read these things, I want to find out a bit more about it, because I think that's a very important part of coaching for people, is to be able to understand that it's not about us just telling you, you must do this, this, and this. It's about, okay, this is what we're going to share with you, and then basically you take that, or what you might try and think, actually, no, this doesn't work for me. Or you might try and go, oh, this is amazing. And that's kind of the whole concept of it, is like you're going away and you've got all these different things. Think, oh, I want to read this, I want to find out a bit more about this. And you might go and do that and think, actually, yeah, it's not for me. And that's the whole point, is everyone's an individual, everyone's unique, and they will have a different experience going through the process. And it's important for people to understand that coaching isn't about telling you what to do. It's about helping you, like what you said, find the answers yourself, when you start to experience different ways of thinking yourself, and then you go out there and then you'll take that new way of thinking and say, okay, does this resonate with me? If not, leave it to the side. If it does, keep it in. And that's a great thing, because everyone's going to take what they can from it. They're going to take something different, and they're going to run with it, and then they're going to eventually find what works for them and what they resonate with the best, and that's what they're going to stick with.
What what was that for you, Ghadir? Like, what was your biggest learning? So for our listeners, obviously, that are not aware, is like throughout the coaching journey, is I tend to work with obviously you, Ghadir, in this scenario, but with other clients as well, more in the psychology side of things, with the emotional wellness side of things. And Jonathan then kind of really takes the lead on all the physical sides of things like nutrition, movement, and this kind of thing. So just from kind of the psychological and emotional place of the coaching, what was your biggest takeaway, your biggest learning that you found the most powerful?
It was definitely the reality loop. I mean, it's something that sounds, I mean, it's a concept that it's not easy to explain in one session. It took you multiple sessions to break it down into small pieces. But to me, that kind of changed my perspective on things quite a lot. It's something that I think about almost every single day to this day. And I try to think of, okay, so what's the kind of information that I have around me? Which filter am I using in terms of processing this information? How does it resonate with me, or where does it come from? Is it my needs, or is it my book of rules? What's my physiological response to that, and all of that? And it is a circle that is not really like easy to explain in one call, but it's something that it made me better aware of where my reaction and where do they come from, and better feel that I'm in control of how I do react. So when I do want to show up to my family or to my in my personal relationships, I feel like I'm being myself, I'm being authentic, and this is how it started. So that's definitely one of them. The other thing is really the food part. That's out of the conversations we had with Jonathan, because we're really bombarded with quite a lot of different ways of like diets, and you see what it is like to be vegan and vegetarian and pescatarian and all of that, and what's the benefit of eating this and that. And to me, that was really insightful to know that whatever, just because this information is available out there, that doesn't mean it's the right thing for me. That I had to really listen to my body, know what kind of food goes really well with me, and just keep monitoring. And it's not something that's kind of feels like homework. It's something I still do. Just monitor if I eat something and how my body reacts to it, and if it's the right food for me. And it kind of gave me that sense of freedom of I don't need to stick to a diet, but I'm getting what my body needs in terms of nutrition. And then at the same time, I don't feel like I'm restricted, so I'm deprived of certain things. So that's kind of the two biggest outcome, I would say.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
I love that as well. With that's from both sides of the coaching, both sides of the coin, because they do work hand in hand together. Like, for example, when you started to maybe tweak, definitely sleep was something that you tweaked early on, and hydration. But when you started to like take care of more of the nutritional side of things, did you notice the difference when it came to your thoughts and your feelings as well?
Yeah, I mean, that for me was really difficult because it meant that I had to keep an eye on my physical reaction and my energy level. And because of the energy level, I had a lot of things to work on. My water intake was not great. My sleep was not great. So I had to keep an eye on what's causing what and try to balance all of them out. Um, so I think that was for me a bit challenging at the beginning. And it's definitely not something that I would say I got there, or it's not something that you say I've achieved that. It's an ongoing process that I will never stop, whether it's health, sleep, or water, or food. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like what you said there. It's not a place where I've got that now, I can stop thinking about it. It is an ongoing process, and the more aware you become of it, it just becomes easier to kind of figure out what's happening as well. Because it's one of those things where you are going to have times in your life where you may dip back down eventually, but you're aware of obviously what's happening, how you're feeling, how you're responding, and you know how to then, okay, this is happening. I know what I need to do now to bring it back up again, to balance everything out. And that's the key. It's just a constant state of awareness of knowing exactly how you're feeling, how you're responding to what you're eating, how you're sleeping, how your energy is, how your thoughts are, all these things. And it does get easier the more you do it. And that's the thing, like you said, it was a challenge at the start, and that's normal because it's not something that you've done before, and it's not what a lot of people do. But when you become aware of it, then it becomes easier to start connecting the dots.
Yeah, it's a muscle we keep working on. Yeah.
Exactly. And there is no real end point to it, because every day we're going to need sleep.
Yeah.
Every day we're going to need to take care of the quality of our thinking. Every day we're going to need to make food choices. You know, it's something that's continuous. And like you said at the very beginning, is like you was caught in a cycle, right? But we are cyclic human beings. We roll that way. That's how it works. That's the ebbs and flows of life. But it's about intervening with that level of awareness. Like you mentioned earlier, just to give a little bit of context for anybody that might be wondering what the reality loop is, I'll do my best to make this really short and sweet. Is basically, we obviously have all this information in the world around us. Some of it we're aware of, some of it we're not. And basically, we then walk around the world basically attaching our own meanings to things. Those meanings come from all sorts of different places, which we won't get into obviously on this conversation, but those meanings then create different reactions within us. So if we feel like we're stuck in a vicious cycle, right, in our life, and maybe it's not feeling great, the good news is you can intervene in that cycle, and you can actually interrupt at some point and start to apply different meanings. And if you don't know what the meanings are at that point, you get to go and find out, and you can learn and you can adjust. And what I love that you mentioned there, Ghadir, was that you listening to your intuition, right, and getting to know, okay, how do you respond when you eat certain foods? How are you responding when your energy levels are high or low? Like, what does that look like for me? Is this how I want to be showing up in life, in my family, personal relationships, work, whatever it may be? Is you're able to then actually pinpoint it and be like, okay, is this serving me? Yes, fantastic, I'll keep doing it. If it's not, then hello, then we know something needs to change.
Yeah, which is amazing. It's that sense of power that you get. Like, we keep saying that we want people to be empowered and everyone to have control over their life, but it's really on a completely different level, right? That's what I think one of the biggest gifts coaching has to offer, the self-awareness that comes with it, and that sense of power that it's really my responsibility, or it's really my doing. Whatever I do in life, this is what I get in return. And of course, it's not meant to be this overwhelming sense of, oh, I don't want to do this, or this is something that I have to do. And that's one of the things I struggled with, the sense of, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it's just too much. It's just knowing that I can do this. And if I can do it, and I'm pretty much I can do everything else I want as well, which is a really great feeling.
Brilliant. Listen, you said earlier something I really want to touch upon, is where you said earlier about is learning to accept yourself. And I don't want to brush over that, because I think it's really important, because I think it's something that everybody, I feel like, can do that. And when you do start to adopt that, and you start to learn how to accept yourself, or we accept ourselves, you know, it empowers you to do so much more. So I think what you just said goes really hand in hand with that. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I went into this coaching thinking that I actually know and I accept myself, right? We go in this with the mentality that, no, I know myself. I mean, I've been hanging out with myself for 30 years. I know how I am, what my characters are, what my personality looks like. And I accept myself. And you go into that thinking, oh, okay, I'm already there. And then you actually start working on layers and layers beneath that and saying, well, do I really truly accept myself? Or is it conditional? Is my relationship with myself conditional? Do I accept myself when I'm here, but I beat myself up when I'm kind of lacking behind here? So it's really just to kind of spread that self-acceptance through different areas in life, and also be aware of areas that maybe I am not accepting myself. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. I think that's something that I also had to learn, which is okay to kind of overcome that feeling over time. It's just a matter of, step one is just be aware of it. And then with time, kind of it breaks it down slowly to kind of reach that where the stage of self-acceptance that I actually want to go to.
Thank you for sharing that. There's one more thing I'd just like to ask before John jumps in there. I think he's going to answer. And that is about your, obviously the self-acceptance was a big part of it, but a tendency you tended to have, and I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning this, is just like avoiding things. Like one of the things that you did at the very start of our coaching, which I love it when people do this, is they say, one thing as my coach you need to be aware is that I will avoid things, right? You'll try and get out of the conversation. Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's human nature. We know there are certain things that are uncomfortable, and once we get there, we're like, nope, not gonna happen. I'm gonna hang up. Oh, I'm feeling sick. Oh, and I did know that's gonna happen and that's gonna show up. So I felt that I need to kind of bring it up front, because it's great that I am being present and I'm bringing all of this, but it's not easy for me to be vulnerable, especially with someone that you're kind of getting to know initially. So I wanted to make sure that that's clear. um, and I can see that quite a lot. I mean, in majority of the sessions, there were moments where I was like, this is really uncomfortable. And I would look on the other side and I'm like, okay, I really want to hang up. I really don't want to be here. Or it's a homework that I had to do and it was extremely uncomfortable. And I would physically actually feel that my body doesn't want to do it, which is something new for me. It's one thing to know mentally that you don't want to do something. It's another thing for your body to say, hey, danger, this is an uncomfortable zone, and to overcome that and actually be like, oh, this is not so bad after all. So yeah, it was fun, to say the least.
I love that now you say that that's fun, but like, how did you kind of overcome those moments where you've had those feelings where it was uncomfortable to be working through some stuff? Like, how did you overcome that, and why did you not just hang up? Why didn't you avoid and just like never come back?
Yeah, there was many moments that I was like, nope, I can't. I need to kind of stop, because it was getting a bit too much. But at the same time, I was like, I've committed to this. I've committed to the time. I have the right people here to help me. They're physically here to help me. It's just a matter of just having a bit of courage. And it's not something that I felt like I had before. And I was like, nope, I'm sticking through this. I'm sticking through this. It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth it. It's just to be aware of that thought when it comes across. And I'm like, nope, we're going to stick through and just be there. So I don't think really there's this magical thing that I did that helped me. It's just knowing that I can trust myself and I'll be okay regardless of the outcome after. Yeah.
I love that, because sometimes people think, okay, well, you get a coach and everything's perfect and everything's wonderful. Obviously, you know, you have to go places sometimes that you don't really want to go, and obviously it was always up for discussion. You know, if there are some things that are off limits, they're off limits, but you also then learn what the consequences of keeping those things off limits are or not. So I think it's really great that you've shared that with us, because you know, anybody that's listening might be thinking actually they don't want to reach out to anyone, whether it be a coach or a friend, to get help just because they feel uncomfortable. And being vulnerable is hard. I never used to be able to be vulnerable at all, and it's something that I've had to work on. And when you do, like, that's when you get to grow the most, I think.
Absolutely. And I can see that with people around me. And that's the powerful thing about coaching, right? Once you started, you're like, oh my God, there's so many opportunities and things that you can help people. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. And I have friends coming over to me and say, can you coach me? But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, I have a personal connection with you. It would be difficult for me to do that, but I can see that how much they love it, just seeing the outcome that it had on me. Um, and it's not something that they would do overnight. It's something that they need to have a bit of courage and a bit of time. But I'm sure that I don't think there's a single person in the whole world would not benefit from coaching. So there's nothing or no harm in trying it. I'm sure there's plenty of personal insights they're going to get. And the amount of effort they put in as well is equated to the amount of outcome that they can actually get out of the whole experience.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's like it's basically like we said, is you don't, when you do obviously coaching, you go into that mentality thinking, I don't want to talk about this, or don't want to share this, I want to do that. And yeah, like Charlotte said, you don't have to. Like, you can just go in and go, okay, look, I need help, but I'm not comfortable sharing this. And then through the process, you start sharing more, and you start realizing that actually, what's the worst that can happen? I'll talk about it, and then, oh no,
Exactly.
I'm still alive. It's like, great. It's like, I feel better now for it. And that's the thing, is like, you're never forced to share anything or do anything, or anything that you don't want to share or talk about or do. And that's, I think, important for people to realize, because some people have had bad experiences in the past. With coaches who again go down that route of saying, no, it doesn't matter, you've got to do it, it's going to make you feel better. And it's just people understanding that you share what you want to share, you do what you want to do, and over the process you'll start to realize that the more that you share, the more you talk, the more you experience and open up, the better the result you get as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree.
There is nothing that lights me up more than knowing that the people that we work with, and not obviously that being the sole reason, but that you then go on to do even more coaching. Now, I know it's part of your role naturally anyway, being in the field that you're in, but now, obviously, like moving forward, you're doing a lot more training on this. This is something you're actively doing. Tell us a little bit more about what life's looking like now for you.
I mean, I've started the coaching journey, I think, about 2 years ago. And it was, again, out of the idea that I want to be healthier. I want to be mentally healthier. I want to be physically healthier. And I thought this is a good, different approach to what I have taken in the past, where I've went to a professional help. And of course, coaching is professional, it's just on a different level, right? So once I started that, and then I came across to working with you, and I found like there's a bit of a more systematic approach to it, and there's an actual way that I can benefit from personally. It kind of ignited my passion. It's something that I did personally, but now it's a bit more than that. It's not something that I want to do just to benefit from. It's something that I want to, it's a work that I genuinely believe in, and I want to see other people benefiting from, not just because it's also part of my role, like you said, but it's something that I think every single person in the world can really benefit. And I see that for the people around me, and it's just a matter of spreading that love and that feeling and that sense of removing the obstacles from people's directions. And of course they're doing it, but you're there to help them and guide them. That sense of fulfillment that you get out of it is amazing. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And next is my certification process and bringing that work a bit more to life, personally, not just professionally.
Brilliant, brilliant. The world needs more coaches.
Yes, for sure.
Let me ask you this, like with you, like with your coach hat on, what do you think is the biggest benefit of coaching? And I mean, like generally speaking, like what do you think like the major impacts coaching can have on an individual level, but also on a big global level as well?
I mean, the word transformation does not describe what happens, really. I mean, it's a word that's often thrown out with coaching all the time, but from the times that I've had coached people and seen that how they come across on the other side, it's just a sense of fulfillment that you get, seeing someone feel a sense of joy and sense of fulfillment, becoming closer to their families, overcoming obstacles. That's really undescribable. I really won't know how to put it in words. On a community, what's a better way to spread love than to tell people to accept yourself and love yourself, because that's where it starts. And then you kind of replicate that, and they start loving themselves, they start loving their families, and their families start loving the community, and that grows and becomes kind of like a healthy rhythm where the society kind of has that as a foundation. So like you said, I genuinely think the world needs more coaching. Everyone would gain out of it. Yeah.
Nice, beautifully said.
Definitely. So if someone was listening, was thinking about coaching, they're a bit on the fence and they're not sure, what would you say to that person?
Definitely try it. I had that as well. I'm a very logical person. So when I first came across coaching, I was like, this is slightly fluffy for me. I don't know what to do with it. I need something, I need a structure, I need a theory, I need a process. And for me, it felt like, I'm not so sure what to do with this information and this insights. So I kind of understand that different people have different reaction to coaching, but you really don't lose anything by trying it. There are amazing coaches out there. You two have been like one of the best coaches that I've ever had in my whole life. So you definitely can gain a lot of insights. And really, you're not losing anything. So try it. I'm sure you're gonna get personal insight. And if you didn't, what's the harm? What did you lose? Absolutely nothing. So that's kind of what I would say.
Nice. There's everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
And that's the thing with coaching as well. It's like you said, it's also about like choosing the right coaches, because there will be coaches out there that will be fantastic people to go and work with you, Ghadir, and there'll be people that's fantastic match to come and work with us, and it's so different. And I really want people that are listening to these episodes that we do to know that you go out there and talk to people, go and see what you like, go and see what you resonate with. And then if you do think, okay, cool, I want to go coach with Charlotte or Jonathan, or I want to go and coach with the guest that we've had on a podcast, then go for it. Like, because it is something that is so personal, because you are going to be vulnerable, you are going to be sharing some of your greatest passions and some of your greatest challenges, and it's about just making sure that you've got the right people holding that space for you to be able to help navigate the journey, I think.
No.
Yeah, you've got to connect with that person, and that's the important thing. Just because you don't connect doesn't mean that basically they're a bad coach. It just means that that connection isn't there. That energy just is it's not there, and that's okay. Like Charlotte said, is not everyone connects with everyone, and that's absolutely fine. Like we've had conversation with people who we know could benefit from coaching, but they're just not the right. Both from both sides, are just not the right fit. So we would recommend them to other coaches who we know might be a better fit. And it's important that people understand that, because even if you've got the best coach in the world, if you're not the right fit, it just ends up being so much harder than it needs to be. And it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get the result you want. Yeah. So it's definitely important to have a conversation, meet different coaches, speak to them, and then find out which one you resonate with the most.
Absolutely. It definitely goes both ways. I mean, that's why it's important to check how you feel about the coaches and the chemistry and their speciality in topics, because unfortunately, I think coaching is associated to only life coaching, but the amount of different areas you can apply to life is really pretty much everything. So go out there, have a look, talk to people. Like Charlotte said, you're really not losing anything out of it.
So you've already touched upon this already in terms of kind of what's next for you. Is there anything else you want to add to this conversation, or anything you feel like anybody listening to this that might be feeling a bit stressed in life or overwhelmed or just maybe curious about what we're talking about today? What would you add to the conversation?
I would say life is hard, but it doesn't have to be hard by yourself. There are so many people who are there to help you. And sometimes it's just a matter of having someone to talk to, and that already kind of changes everything. So don't be on your own trying to figure life out. I've done that for years and it didn't work. So try to get the help that you need. And it doesn't have to be just help. Try to talk to people and see what you can get in terms of new insights.
Amazing. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Definitely. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And it's been great to listen to your story. And I'm sure anyone who's listening to this is going to really resonate with obviously some of the things you've said and really take away from this. And hopefully it will spark that little bit of curiosity for them to go out there and ask those questions and maybe start to connect with the people around them, and maybe even find a coach for themselves.
I really hope that.
Like, Ghadir, honestly, like obviously love this conversation with you today, but I know from both of our sides, and I've said this to you before, we've absolutely loved coaching you for the period that we did, and I'm so excited to see what else is next for you. We'd love to have you back on the podcast as well later down the line, and see what you're specialising in as a coach as well, and get you to share your wisdom, even more wisdom with us, so that our listeners can come and follow you and follow your journey as well.
That's amazing. And I really can't say thank you to both enough. I think it doesn't really feel like the word thank you can really describe how much grateful I am. It's been really an amazing experience, and it's ongoing, right? I'm not going to stop this. I'm definitely going to come back to you at some point when I need coaching again. So it's not something that I'm going to be like, nope, done. And I really hope a lot of people try this and go down this path. It's a really rewarding, and you really get a lot out of it. So all the best to both of you. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's really been great having this conversation.